Yesterday was Fed Day. I love Fed Day. It's like when the Federal Reserve comes out and they jawbone, like they talk about what they're going to think about doing potentially. And what they do is they set expectations. And this is interesting because our central bank is, one, not a bank, two, it's not central. Because if it was, it wouldn't have to set expectations, it would just do things. And it's not federal, it's not even, and it has no reserves. So the Federal Reserve is completely a psyop. It's essentially a banking cabal to buy everything. And by buy everything, I mean like these people have a balance sheet of over $8 trillion and they just buy whatever they want to buy whenever they want to buy it. And this matters for you and I because you and I are stuck in this fiat system economy where essentially what's happened since 71, since we came off the gold standard, which was the only check to power against these central bankers, which is kind of like, you can do whatever you want, central bankers, the real government, but you got this gold standard, you need to make sure you got the gold. And in 71, they didn't have the gold. And Nixon came out and was like, hey, so we're going to break the gold window. We're not going to let people, turn in, essentially foreign nations, because at that time it was illegal for Americans to own gold. And this is something that, whether you're into crypto or not, the Bitcoiners seem to miss. They did steal everybody's gold in 1933. I mean, true story. It was like $20, $22. They took everyone's gold. They shut the banks. They made sure they had control of the gold supply. And then they made it illegal. They made it treason to own. And then they repriced it to $35 an ounce, to where it basically sat until it's essentially in the 50s. It was around 50, but it sat there for a while. Maybe it wasn't 50. Maybe it was up to 71. Eventually, when they broke the gold window and they came off of a gold standard, they couldn't fix the price of gold anymore. And what happened is the price of gold ripped. I mean, it ripped. I think it ripped to like $800 originally, like when we came off the gold standard. But nonetheless, these things are relatively important to pay attention to, because this does matter for how the economy functions. Because people like you watching are very entrepreneurial. A lot of you guys have side hustles in this audience. A lot of you guys are exterior contractors. You're just minding your own business, wanting to do your thing, maybe acquire a rental property here or there. You want to play the game. However, but we have a system that doesn't allow malinvestment to clear itself. And what that means is, as entrepreneurs, myself, like most guilty person out here for doing this, we go out there and we've got this amazing idea. It's going to be great, guys. And you have all this uninformed optimism. And what happens is you put some money into that thing. If you're like me and you've been well funded on different ventures, you put too much money into that thing, and then you start getting informed pessimism. And this is like, wait a second, this is harder than I thought it was. Oh, we don't have enough resources. We don't have the right people. We need more customers, like whatever it may be. Oh, our customers don't even like this product or service. Like, so you get this informed pessimism. And then if you've got family members, maybe they've referred to you as like being somewhat of bipolar if you're an entrepreneur, because you're always dealing within this weird world inside your own mind where you have this uninformed optimism, everything's great, and then you have this informed pessimism where like everything's gonna die and break right now. And then the truth is normally somewhere right in between the middle, and you've got to grunt it out, struggle it out, hammer it out, grind it out to achieve your goals. But sometimes it just doesn't work out. Like my first venture that legitimately failed on me was a biodiesel company. I love the idea of renewables. This was in end of 2007, beginning of 2008, before fuel started to rip to the moon. I was just super interested in it. Some things that happened is they changed the emissions on me in 2008, but it was fine. It was only the new trucks that couldn't run on biodiesel, and the old trucks loved it. I mean, they ran so good, and the product was relatively profitable, even at a small scale. And then, I learned how that market went. But anyway, I had I put not a ton of money into that thing, but a decent amount of money into that, maybe 25 or 30 grand plus a bunch of time. And I had malinvested. So essentially, I didn't get that 25 or 30 grand out of the project. I did learn a lot, so I paid for an education. But what happened there was I'd made a malinvestment. I'd done this in other businesses as well. So you need an economy where when that happens, businesses fail. And when businesses fail, somebody else gets to buy your crap for cheap, half off or more, your resources that you're holding up, your employees, your whatever resources that you're malinvesting are freed up. Oh, but people are going to lose their jobs. Yeah, but they're able to go to where maybe they will be better served long term. And so the Austrian economists, which is the Austrian school of thought, this is Hayek and Mises and the guys that were teaching at the Chicago School of Business back in the day, like 50s, 60s, 70s. Milton Friedman we could consider. Nonetheless, I'm a geek. I love reading and watching, these guys' content. They're all passed on now, but they just did such great work. We in North America have made a decision, I would argue the entire world, to go Keynesian, which is kind of the opposite, which is like, well, his famous line is, well, in the long run, we're all dead. So like, let's have a good time now. So essentially he made this case that you could go out and you could stimulate the economy using government power or central banking power. And you could do a couple things. You could lower the interest rates, which would let entrepreneurs like me borrow more at cheaper. Or you could go out there and you could do spending programs, which would let, more corruption, but you could build bridges, which is good for our contractors and things like that. But nonetheless, what happens is when you do the central planning, you end up malinvesting into the economy. And at some point, you need a recession to clear it out. And so our entire economy has been dead since 08, previous to 08 really, but it definitely died on 08. And we went on life support. And since then, we've been on life support. And we wallpapered over everything. But the patient never really came back. Our economy never started to grow again. And evidence of that is in 2017, Moore's Law began to stop. Meaning that technology doubled every 18 months as far as like the amount of computing power you could put within a small piece of chippage. So like, 1 inch can carry so many terabytes or whatever. And it would double every 18 months. Well, we've reached that limit now. Like it actually turned into an S curve. So it's actually in a reverse. We're in a stagnation. And this comes directly from not allowing the malinvestment to purge itself from the system, which is really an unfortunate thing. And so what we have is we have a bunch of like airlines that they suck. I mean, they totally suck, and there's too many of them. But we want to keep people's jobs around, so we'll give them $50 billion. And what happens is, like GM, like they sucked. They didn't build the right product. Like they had products that were amazing. If you've ever seen a documentary called Who Killed the Electric Car, they came up with an amazing electric car. It's called the EV1. They killed it because they were like, oops, gonna kill our business model. There are companies like Kodak, first company in the world that comes up with a digital camera, but they sell film. And if we have a digital camera, well, that's bad for the film business. Well, so they killed it. Anyway, the digital camera ended up being a thing, and Kodak is no longer a thing. And so Joseph Schumpeter, another economist or philosopher writer, would say these are the waves of creative destruction out changing the economy. What essentially is happening is these entrepreneurs out there in the economy are looking for opportunities, and they're trying to fill voids. And so they see new technology, and they're marrying new technology with old business models or making new business models, and they're creating waves of creative destruction, meaning they're destroying the old by creating the new. And that's a good thing for the economy. Our economy that we're in is just straight up too fake and gay to handle that. Oh, we can't have people lose their jobs. Oh, we can't have these middle-level managers that we've oversupplied. We have an overproduction of mid-level managers, the email PowerPoint class. And what we're finding at this point in 2021 is that we just don't need these people. I mean, yeah, the work from home thing is going great for them, but what are we doing as far as like the empire? And so I'd like to present a different thing to you. Is that the empire at this point in time is clearly in decline. I don't think you can debate that. And it's not the president or the previous president. It's not the president, dude. It's the fact that we have central banking and the fact that we haven't let malinvestment since 2001 purge itself from the economy. So we have 2 decades of malinvestment. We have 2 decades of keeping people in their jobs, because we needed to keep their job, because we did bailouts in 2001, but we did lots of bailouts in 2008, and then we did lots of bailouts in 2020. And there's a point where the market forces are going to rip the central planners' heads off. And like, ideally, I mean, hopefully it's not the people, but we are approaching French Revolution moments because the wealth gaps are becoming so huge. You see the advent of companies like Tesla, which I'm a big Tesla fanboy, but you see like the stock price over $1,200 when, you know, it's larger than any car company. Like, it's larger than the next 7 car companies combined, like Mercedes and everyone, like all of them combined. Like, it's larger than all of them as far as the market cap, meaning like the total value for the business. And you're like, but do they have any profits? And you're like, yeah, a little bit, but not like a lot. Like, well, how much profits? Like a fraction of Ford's. Like, and Ford doesn't have much profit either. And so what happens is, like, we've created this because we have to have manufacturing jobs, we have to have autos, and at the same time we've added all these regulations, the EPA, et cetera, and so the system has grown to a point where there's so much bureaucracy and malinvestment in the system that when it purges itself, kind of like when your buddies is going out partying too hard with you, and you're bringing them home, and they're, oh, second man, I got pull the car over for me, man, I gotta throw up, and that the body's purging itself from all of that malinvestment. It just can't, you know, it's a lot of poison in there and it's got to get out. We don't like that process. And if that process is subtle, like you had one drink too many, it's not that big of a deal. You feel a little crappy in the morning, get a smoothie and a bagel, you feel much better. Have a coffee, everything's fine. But if it's too bad, then the only way to keep it going is to just keep drinking. And that's what we've decided to do. Well, the patient is dead and it's on life support. It's not even coming back. I mean, it's over. And we're now at the end game. And so the end game is the central banks come out and they jawbone the market like they did yesterday, and they go, oh, well, we're going to taper. Well, like, here's the thing. They're printing so much money. $10 trillion in the last 12 to 18 months. $10 trillion. Just so you have an idea of what a trillion is, if you spent $1 every second for the last 32,000 years, you'd have $1 trillion. They can do it in an hour. Just boom, another $1 trillion. So it's pretty alarming. But my point that I want to bring to you guys that are this far into the videos, this system is going to rip apart. And by rip apart, I mean, like, there's a day where you go and your debit card doesn't work. Like, that's a fact. Because what's happened is we've built this system on fake dollars, on fake dollars, on fake dollars. We've malinvested, sure. But we've created over $27 trillion, and we don't know how many are in the Euro system. And the Euro system has no reserve requirements, neither do we know.